I have proof that Karen and 80 other people trespassed on my land without permission. I also have footage from my camera showing that my dogs didn't harm anyone. They're well-trained and only protect my property. Mr. Vernon frowned, flipping through the papers. Karen's confident smile slowly faded. I even have the police report from that day, I continued. It confirms Karen organized an unauthorized gathering on my land, and she had no legal right to be there. Karen opened her mouth, but no words came out. Mr. Vernon sighed, rubbing his temples. Ma'am, do you realize this complaint holds no legal weight? This land is private property, and the Homeowners Association has no authority here. There's no violation. Karen shouted, her voice dripping with frustration. But he. She turned to me, her eyes blazing with fury. You won't get away with this. Let me tell you a story about something utterly ridiculous I once experienced in my life. HOA Karen caused me no end of trouble. Leave a comment with the number 9, so I know you're ready for the twists and turns of this tale. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of the tense details waiting ahead with me. I'm Elias Hawthorne, 38 years old, an interior designer who left the frantic pace of city life to find peace on my own piece of land in the outskirts of Silver Hollow. I was born in a tiny coastal town called Driftwood Bay, where the sound of crashing waves and the scent of sea salt nurtured my dreams of a free life. Now, on this vast stretch of land, I've built a place to call home, or at least, I thought I could settle in peace until that fateful morning. I was savoring a cup of black coffee, letting the cool countryside air seep into my senses, when a startling sight nearly made me choke on my sip. An endless line of vehicles, ATVs, travel trailers, and family cars, rolled down the dirt road toward my house, kicking up dust like a miniature storm. I rubbed my eyes, wondering if I'd slipped into some bizarre dream. But no, the reality before me was too vivid to deny. Strangers climbed out one by one, stretching and yawning as if they just arrived at a vacation paradise. Some started pulling out tents, others hauled coolers, and one guy even scurried off to scout a spot for his campsite. I stood there, still clutching my coffee, my mind blank. What was happening? Then I saw her, Karen, the head of the Homeowners Association, clutching a clipboard. Her short blonde hair bounced as she marched forward like a self-appointed dictator leading a chaotic mob. Her face radiated an irritating confidence I couldn't stand, as if she held the power to decide everything. I took a deep breath, set my coffee on the table, and fought the urge to flip it all over. I stepped off my porch, heading toward the growing crowd. They pounded stakes into the ground, unfolded chairs, and spread out sleeping bags like this was a public campground. Good morning, friendly neighbor. Karen flashed a beaming, fake smile that made me want to back away. Thanks for so generously letting us borrow your land for the HOA's annual outdoor gathering. I frowned. Borrow my land for what? Karen let out a high-pitched laugh, waving her hand as if I'd just told a joke. Oh, don't act so surprised. I told the HOA we needed a spot to unwind, and your land is perfect, wide open, far from the stifling city, and you're not exactly using it for anything big, right? I clenched my fists, trying to keep my voice steady despite the rising anger. Karen, this is my land, private property. None of these people have permission to be here. She responded with a smug grin that made me feel belittled. Come on now, technically speaking. The HOA met and agreed we all need a shared space to relax, and since you're part of this community, I'm not part of the HOA. I cut in, firm and unyielding. Her smile faltered for a split second, but she quickly regained her fake confidence. Well, you should join. Anyway, we've already set everything up. It's just 4 days, and honestly, you should feel lucky to be part of this event. Lucky? Was she serious? I glanced around. Someone had lit a small fire, kids were running wild, and a guy in cargo shorts was stringing a hammock between 2 of my oak trees. This is trespassing, I said, struggling to keep my anger in check. You need to tell everyone to leave. Now. Karen snorted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, come on, don't make a big deal out of this. We're all neighbors here. It's just a little camping trip. Just a camping trip, with 80 uninvited people on my land. Before I could argue back, a loud thud rang out, followed by a piercing scream. A young woman had just stepped in a pile of goat droppings, hopping around on one foot. "Good heavens, that's disgusting. There's poop everywhere," she yelled, her face scrunched up in horror. Her mother gasped. "Wait, you said this wasn't a pre-cleared campsite?" Karen faltered, her response slow and awkward. "Well, not exactly. No bathrooms either?" Someone else shouted, their voice a mix of shock and outrage. A guy in a plaid shirt took a deep sniff. "What's that weird smell?" I had to fight hard not to burst out laughing. This wasn't some fancy campground. It was raw, untamed land, complete with all the surprises nobody wanted. But Karen wouldn't give up. She spun toward me, hands on her hips, her tone brimming with defiance. "Look, we planned this carefully. People took time off work to be here. Some even brought their big trailers. We can't just turn back now." "That's not my problem," I replied, my voice calm but firm. She glared at me like I just ruined her entire world. But the HOA agreed. "One last time, Karen," I cut in. "The Homeowners Association has zero authority over my land. You and all these people are trespassing. Plain and simple." A ripple of nervous whispers spread through the crowd. A few people shifted uneasily, as if they were just realizing how shaky this situation was. But Karen stood her ground, lips pressed tight with frustration. "Fine," she cleared her throat. "If you're so set on hogging your land, how about we put it to a vote?" I stared at her, hardly believing my ears. "A vote? You think you can vote to take my property?" She tilted her chin up, oozing confidence. "We live in a democracy, don't we?" I ran a hand over my face, taking a deep breath to stay calm. "All right, Karen, if you want to play democracy, let me introduce you to my security team." I pulled out my phone and made a quick call. "It's time," I said simply before hanging up. Karen frowned, hesitating. "Time for what?" A low, rumbling growl interrupted her. From behind the big shed, they emerged. My real protectors. 5 massive dogs, each one expertly trained and brimming with power, stepped forward silently. Their sleek black coats gleamed in the sunlight, their sharp eyes locked on the strangers. Everyone froze. Someone dropped a bag of marshmallows, and it hit the ground with a soft thud. Are they friendly?" A woman named Lila whispered, shrinking behind her husband. "Depends on the situation," I said. The lead dog, a giant German shepherd named Rex, let out a deep, echoing bark that rolled across the field. Karen's face went pale, her voice trembling. You can't just bring those dogs out here." I crossed my arms. "Oh, but you can bring 80 strangers onto my land?" Rex took a slow, deliberate step forward, calm and steady. Another dog, Luna, followed, her ears perked high, her gaze fixed on Karen like she was tracking every twitch. Karen swallowed hard, shaking. You wouldn't dare." I shrugged. "They're trained not to overreact unless provoked," I added, locking eyes with her as the truth sank in. In an instant, her so-called community outdoor gathering turned into pure chaos. People scrambled to pack up, shoving stuff into bags, tripping over themselves to get out. The guy in cargo shorts abandoned his hammock without a backward glance. A family of 5 practically sprinted to their van. Karen, now perched on the hood of an ATV, shrieked, "I'm calling the police right now." I chuckled softly and pulled out my phone. "Go ahead. I already beat you to it." And just then, 3 police cars rolled up. Karen's jaw dropped as she stared at me. Disbelief etched across her face as the officers stepped out. She was finally starting to realize she'd lost. Karen's face shifted from fury to panic as the officers appeared. The crowd, just moments ago buzzing with excitement for their weekend getaway, now stood dead silent. Laughter and chatter vanished, replaced by a thick, tense stillness. I watched as Karen tried to steady herself, her hands gripping the clipboard so tightly her knuckles turned white. She took a long breath, squared her shoulders, and marched toward the officers like she was about to argue a landmark court case. "You're just in time," she exclaimed, flipping through her clipboard pages in a rush. "This man unleashed dangerous animals on innocent families. We just wanted a friendly gathering, and he threatened us." She pointed at me, putting on a dramatic show of fear. "This is outrageous. You need to arrest him right now." Officer Brandt, a tall man with a thick mustache, stared at her for a long moment, his face blank and unreadable. Then he turned to me. "Sir, you reported a trespassing issue?" I nodded. "That's right. This is my land. I didn't give anyone permission to be here, and now there are 80 people turning it into a public park. As for the dogs," I glanced at Karen, "they're just doing their job, keeping things secure." Meanwhile, Officer Maris, the other officer, a stern woman with her own notepad, fixed her gaze on Karen. "Ma'am, do you have written permission to use this property?" Karen blinked, clearly caught off guard. "Well, the Homeowners Association discussed it and agreed this spot was perfect for our gathering. It's only 4 days." Officer Maris kept her expression steady. "That's not what I asked. Do you have permission from the owner?" Karen opened her mouth, then shut it again, speechless. She looked around, hoping someone might jump in to back her up, but most people were too busy scrambling to pack, unwilling to get involved. Officer Maris sighed and turned to me. "Do you have proof this land belongs to you?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked to my truck, opened the glove box, and pulled out a neatly organized folder. I handed it to her, and she flipped through it with quick, practiced efficiency. "Registered under your name," she murmured. "No ties to the HOA. No shared community space here." She snapped the folder shut and looked at Karen. "Ma'am, you and everyone here are trespassing on private property." Karen stammered. "No, that can't be. He lives in this area, so the HOA should have some say." Officer Brandt raised an eyebrow. "That's not how property law works. The HOA only governs members who've agreed to its rules. He's not a member, and this land isn't under their control. You've got no legal standing here." Karen let out a frustrated yell. "But we've been planning this for 5 months. People took time off work. We even printed a detailed itinerary." She stomped her foot like a kid throwing a tantrum. Officer Brandt sighed, his patience clearly wearing thin. "Ma'am, that's not his problem. You can't just take someone's land because it suits your plans." Before Karen could snap back, a deep growl cut through the tense air. Rex stepped forward, his massive frame casting a shadow on the ground, ears perked high, eyes locked on Karen like he was daring her to keep talking. Karen let out a choked squeak, stumbling back so fast she nearly tripped. "Why doesn't he get rid of those animals?" she shrieked, her voice thick with panic. I smirked. "They're on my land, not you. They've got every right to be here." Officer Maris seemed to stifle a laugh before slipping back into her serious tone. "Listen up, everyone," she announced loudly to the crowd. "You've got 15 minutes to pack up and leave. Anyone still here after that will get a ticket for trespassing on private property." A wave of panic swept through the campers. They rushed to grab their gear, stuffing tents into bags and dragging coolers back to their cars. A few muttered regrets about not roasting marshmallows, but no one dared argue with the police. Karen, though, wasn't ready to give up. She whirled toward me, her face flushed with rage. "This isn't over. You're ruining a community event. You're making yourself the enemy of this whole neighborhood." I shrugged, my voice calm. "I don't care about the neighborhood, Karen. I care about my land. And if you or anyone tries this again, my dogs won't just stand there." Her face paled. You wouldn't dare." I stepped closer, lowering my voice just enough for her to hear. "Try me." She opened her mouth to speak, then clamped it shut, her jaw tightening as she realized she was out of moves. With a glare full of frustration, she spun around, stormed to her car, and slammed the door so hard the vehicle shook. I watched the last stragglers hurriedly load their stuff, their eyes darting nervously toward the dogs still lined up. Rex let out one final bark, like a countdown timer. That was enough to send the rest scrambling. The officers waited until the last car peeled out before turning to me. Officer Brandt tipped his hat. "Looks like you've got this under control." I gave a small smile. "Thanks for the backup." Officer Maris glanced at the dogs, then at me. "Gotta say, this security team, pretty impressive." I chuckled. "They're more reliable than any alarm system." She nodded. "If they come back, just let us know. I've got a feeling that woman won't let this go easily." I sighed, already picturing another headache from Karen down the road. "I'll be ready." The officers climbed into their cars and drove off, leaving me alone with my land. I took a deep breath, feeling my shoulders relax. The quiet was back, bringing with it a deep sense of satisfaction. I turned to the dogs, now sitting neatly, their eyes still scanning the area. "Good job, guys." Rex wagged his tail, and Luna nuzzled my hand before trotting off to patrol the property. I picked up my coffee, cold by now, but I didn't mind. I'd won. My land was mine again, and Karen had just learned a hard lesson about messing with the wrong person. As I watched the last cars disappear, leaving behind a few scraps of trash and messy footprints in the grass, I took another long breath. Peace had returned. My land, my sanctuary, was mine once more. Rex and the pack started to unwind, their ears no longer pricked with alertness. Luna let out a contented huff, sprawling out on the porch with her legs stretched comfortably. I thought it was over, but just as I turned to head inside, the screech of tires on gravel cut through the air. My grip tightened. I didn't even need to look to know who it was. Karen's ATV screeched to a stop at the entrance, the door flying open as she stormed out, her whole body trembling with fury. When our eyes met, she jabbed a finger at me. "This isn't over," she shouted, charging forward like she could force me to back down. "You think you can humiliate me like that? You think you can kick me off our community's land?" I stood still, meeting her gaze without a flicker of emotion. She was clearly waiting for a reaction, but I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction. "This isn't your community's land, Karen," I said firmly. "This is my property. You and your HOA delusions have no power here." Her lips twisted in frustration. "You don't belong here. You live among us but contribute nothing. You don't follow the rules that keep this neighborhood together." I let out a dry laugh. "Your rules? The ones I never agreed to? You don't get to decide what I do with my land, Karen." She stomped her foot like a sulking child. "You made me look like a fool in front of everyone. Now they think I have no authority. Do you realize what you've done?" I smirked. "Yeah. I showed them you're not as important as you think." Her face turned crimson. For a moment, I thought she'd scream again, but instead, she took a deep breath and steadied herself. That was never a good sign. It meant she was plotting something. "I hope you're ready for the consequences," she said, her voice dripping with defiance, her eyes flashing with spite. "I have powerful friends. You might have one with the cops this time, but wait until the county gets involved. You'll regret this." I crossed my arms. "I don't think so." With one last furious glare, she spun around, marched back to her ATV, and slammed the door so hard the sound echoed through the still air. She reversed so fast the tires kicked up a cloud of dust, then sped off, leaving a long trail of gravel in her wake. I watched her go, shaking my head. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd been ready for a long time. For the next 6 days, I kept a close watch on my land. I installed security cameras everywhere, motion sensors along the fence, and of course my dogs were still there. I wasn't giving Karen any chance to catch me off guard. Sure enough, it didn't take long. A letter arrived in my mailbox, stamped with the official county seal. I opened it, reading every line carefully. A complaint had been filed, claiming I was using my land against community regulations, with concerns about environmental issues and public safety. In short, Karen had followed through on her ridiculous threat. I laughed out loud. Did she really think this would shake me? I made a few phone calls, organized my paperwork neatly, and set up a meeting at the county office. When I got there, dressed in my old jeans and a worn-in shirt, I spotted Karen in the waiting area, decked out like she was about to meet a VIP. She smirked at me, as if she'd already won. I sat down, stretching my legs out comfortably, not a hint of worry on me. If she thought she'd backed me into a corner, she was in for a big disappointment. A staff member named Clara called us in, leading us to a small office where a middle-aged official, Mr. Vernon, sat behind a desk piled with papers. He adjusted his glasses and skimmed the complaint. "All right," he said, glancing between us. "I've got a report saying your land was used for an unpermitted event, with hazardous materials and animals threatening community safety. Is that right?" Karen sat up straight, jumping in. "Yes. He keeps vicious dogs that nearly attacked innocent families, and his land is totally unsafe for people." Mr. Vernon turned to me. "What do you have to say?" I pulled out a folder and set it on the desk. "I have proof that Karen and 80 others trespassed on my land without permission. I've also got camera footage showing my dogs didn't hurt anyone. They're well trained and just protect my property." Mr. Vernon frowned, flipping through the documents. Karen's confident smile started to fade. "I've got the police report from that day too," I added. "It confirms Karen organized an illegal gathering on my land, and she had no legal right to be there." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. Mr. Vernon sighed, rubbing his temples. "Ma'am, do you realize this complaint has no legal standing? This is private property, and the Homeowners Association has no jurisdiction here. There's no violation." Karen shouted, her voice thick with frustration. But he." She spun toward me, her eyes blazing with rage. "You won't get away with this." I smiled. "Looks like I already did." Mr. Vernon gave her a stern look. "Ma'am, I'd advise you not to file baseless complaints again, or you might face legal consequences yourself." Karen's body went rigid, her lips pressed tight, her hands gripping the chair. She glared at me, her eyes full of resentment, but she knew she'd lost again. Without another word, she stood and stormed out, her footsteps heavy. I watched her go, shaking my head. Some people never know when to quit. Stepping out into the fresh air, I took a deep breath. It was over, for real this time. Karen had tried everything. Manipulation, lies, even legal threats. But she'd failed completely. So what do you think of this story? For me, the clash between Elias and Karen reflects a common reality in today's world, where the line between personal rights and community pressure sometimes gets crossed. Through his fight to protect his land, Elias shows how vital it is to know your legal rights and stand up for what's right calmly but firmly. This story also teaches us a lesson. In life, we need to respect each other's space, communicate clearly to avoid misunderstandings, and rely on the law to settle disputes instead of forcing our own agendas. It's a tale that's both entertaining and educational, not meant to judge, criticize, or offend anyone or any group, but to share a positive message about fairness and responsibility. If you enjoyed it, drop a comment below with your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to join me for more meaningful stories. Thanks for watching this video all the way through. Wishing you a peaceful day, and I'll see you in the next one.